We are recording. Welcome, Nerdiverse, to the 2025 annual bicentennial edition Hyper Rainbow Collection. The Concern of Glorious Nippon presents MOTN Random Select, baby. Let's go. Introductions all around before we go over the preliminaries. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G. With me today on the MIC is Wash himself. And, of course, breakdancing in the back like crazy legs is Toots Odin. How we feeling tonight, peoples?
What's up? How are you?
Very well. Ready to do
Super
some Mortal
excited.
Kombat.
Yep,
Yo,
let's
that was a review.
That was
Check it
a
out,
review.
MOTN.com.
Still haven't seen the new Mortal Kombat, but
You
moving
don't
on.
need
Go on.
to, though. You don't need to. It
Oh,
may show up on a random select one day. We don't know. So you may be
we
asking
don't.
yourself, Nerdiverse, what's a random select? So what this is a competition between 8 films that we random select based on a genre. We have done this multiple times in the past with comedies. We've done it with horror. Today, our topic of discussion, graphic novels. Everything graphic novels. So we pit 2 films against each other, randomly selected. And through the panel of 3, we decide who was the victor to become the grand random select champion. Have I left anything out, team?
No, no, you have not.
Beautiful. Let's get this started. So you're asking yourself, how did we get here? And this is like the third time we've said this joke on the channel in the last 3 days.
go.
This is not my beautiful
I'll never
house.
get old.
It never gets old. So today we have 2, couldn't be more polar opposite films, I would say. And geez, watching these back to back was like a frickin' bruh. That shit was
That's
like,
funny.
we'll talk about it. You know, we can talk. This is the preliminary, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about our experience with these 2 films before we go into the deep dive. So I got to tell you, I was late to the party with this. I literally watched both of these films back to back last night. Literally back to back. And it is the craziest juxtaposition of fucking moods, bro. Like, Persepolis, I was just talking to someone today. Persepolis is like a steak, the last steak you got from like your great nona, and it's the most delicious steak, and it brings back all these memories. And it's like you're crying because the steak is so good. It reminds you of home. And then Kick Ass is like a Four Loco. You know what I mean? That you chase it down with. And I don't know how to feel after this
That's
experience.
perfect.
Are
You
we
know,
still at Nana's house after that Four Loco goes
yeah,
down?
no,
Or do we
you're
leave?
literally washing down the steak with the Four Loco, and now you want to punch out car windows. It's the weirdest feeling. So I have to ask everyone, starting with Wash, what is your experience with these 2 films?
I will say I had very much a similar experience as you, but my time frame is different. I watched Persepolis about a month ago when we first got the idea. I just got gung ho and I'm like, all right, let's get it out of the way so it's not waiting last minute. And so then I literally went the next day and I started watching Kick Ass and it was weird. And I was like, you know what? I think I need to wait a minute because the flavor of Kick Ass is not
I
mixing with what I saw with Persepolis, and so I waited probably I think I watched Kick Ass like maybe 8 9 days ago, so it was a while that I waited, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, that's where I'm coming from, and I've seen Kick Ass one time, had never seen Persepolis, but as a random fun fact. I have sold Persepolis on the eBay store. You can find me over at Watch It Skate on eBay.
plug, plug.
And
Nice.
I've sold it twice and had never watched it. So it has been in my possession, physical copy twice. And I was like, what the hell is this random movie? So fun that we got a chance to review it
The movie's so
or
nice, he sold it
complete it.
twice. We love it.
Yes.
Toots, tell us your experience.
So, excuse me. I watched both of them yesterday. I started with Persepolis first, which was like yesterday morning. I ended up taking a nap, which was desperately needed yesterday.
Smart.
Um,
Smart.
yeah, I took a nice little nap in between watching them. The afternoon, I cooked dinner, but I got to tell you that movie stuck with me. So I think taking a huge break between the two helped because I stopped once the movie was over. It stuck with me. It stayed with me. I got more curious about it. I wanted to learn more about the writer's life. Like it was an interesting movie to say the least. And then Kick-Ass I watched for dinner. I watched around dinner time, and then I took my time watching that as well. Actually, throughout, it's a longer movie than I remember. But yeah, I just like you. I literally went from like sort of like a panic state to, oh my god, this is so much fucking fun. You know what I mean? And given the different storylines. So yeah, it was both movies were watched yesterday, so they're super fresh on my mind, and no regrets, man. No regrets whatsoever.
I
Had a
love
good
this
time.
format so much because I'm already hearing things that have interplayed in my head, and it's just such a random experience to hop on here and be like, "Wait, what? This is crazy." So I will ask Toots. In full disclosure, you did say you watched 5 minutes of this for a quick second or 5 seconds of it, and it sucked.
Of
Was
which
that what?
one? Persepolis? Yeah. Yeah.
Persepolis? Yes. When you
Yep.
were in
Yep.
group chat. So then when you sent the group chat a couple of days later, I was like, are we talking about the same movie? But in disclosure, we don't want to talk about it outside of said format. So I didn't ask
Right.
any
So
questions. You know what I
I
mean?
know we were trying to pod, but yeah,
So,
I was immediately sold. Like it didn't take,
okay.
and I don't remember which. Oh, I do remember which clip it was, but I think we're gonna get into that later. But yeah, and I was like, yeah, this is it. I was just like completely sold. I love stories like this. I grew up reading stories like this, especially when they involved the wars overseas, like this. You know what I mean? The Holocaust is one of my favorite subjects to study. My favorite book in the world is called Number the Stars, and it's about a little Jewish girl who had to hide, who was like hiding during the Holocaust and being stopped by soldiers in the middle of the war and checking papers and all. And she was about the same age, maybe about 6, 7 years old, having to deal with it throughout her adolescence. So these kinds of stories absolutely fascinate me. They're the side story to the main plot of any of a war, basically. And my goodness, it's right up my alley. So yay, this was a great choice for sure.
Absolutely. And just to kind of round things out, like I had no perception that this movie existed. This is my first time hearing the word Persepolis. And you know what I mean? It's one of those things where you see the black and white, you see the art style in the periphery of your life and you just never connect to it. Like I may have seen it on some commercial somewhere, but I've never like thought to sit down and watch it. And much
I
like,
mean, I own the thing and I would never watch it.
yeah, that's what
Never
I'm
had the
saying.
inclination for
Never
it.
thought to
Like,
watch
yeah.
it. So in my experience with both movies is I remember Kick-Ass, and we'll go deeper into Kick-Ass, but Kick-Ass was like a cultural phenomenon when it came out. You know what I mean? I remember that being a pretty big deal, if I'm remembering correctly. That Kick-Ass was like, okay, everyone saw Kingsman, and Kingsman was so insane. How is Matthew Vaughn going to follow this up? And he followed up with the adaptation of Kick-Ass, and it was like, okay, this movie rules. And like Toots was saying, it's such a juxtaposition of emotions from these films, and it's literally like it's like whiplash. It's like cinema whiplash. These two films, seeing them so close
Well,
together.
let's explain real quick what Persepolis is about because there's
Okay,
probably plenty of people just
Yeah,
like us who didn't see it.
hold on.
You
let's
know,
get
so
into it.
yeah, I think there's a description that is
Let's
warranted for this
go.
movie.
Nice segue, Toots. So we have Persepolis, directed by Vincent.
Persepolis.
Persepolis, directed by Vincent Pronaud and Marjane. I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name because I don't want to be insensitive. Synopsis: a precocious and outspoken Iranian girl grows up during the Islamic Revolution. Fun fact: this is something I just thought of the last second. Did you know? Because I found this so interesting. The Iran government sent a letter to the French embassy in Tehran to protest against this movie and pressured the organizers of the 2007 Bangkok Film Festival to drop it from its lineup.
Yeah,
It's a
considered
metaphor.
it's considered anarchist propaganda. That's what it was considered.
It's a metaphor for the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's literally that. It's literally meta. It's literally meta of the movie. Yeah, that's pretty insane. The movie came out in 2010.
Hmm.
Is when the film adaptation of the book came out. Marjane wrote both. She had full hand in writing the film, which is, from what I understand, is almost word for word, scene for scene, as is the book, which is what was very important to her. Everything in the book is true. She really is a Bruce Lee fan. She really does have the little mark on her nose. Everything was pretty accurate to the writer herself, which I think is beautiful because it's a love letter to her home country, which she apparently could never go back to again. At the end of the film, it's decided that you have to leave Iran and you cannot ever come back to
You're
Iran.
banished
She left
from
once.
Iran.
She tried to come back. Well, she wasn't banished.
Her,
Her parents didn't want her there.
her mom
You know,
said,
her
"You're
parents were
forbidden to
like,
come home."
I forbid you to come back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, she wasn't. You make it sound like it was a government
technically
thing, and
banished.
given
It
that there's a
wasn't.
war,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're
So
right.
yeah,
You're right.
so yeah, it's interesting because throughout the entire film, she is struggling with fighting the temptations of westernized civilization. She's getting black market deals on Iron Maiden tapes and all kinds of punk rock
Michael
music and
Jackson, Doug.
Jackal Maxon. What does he say? He totally flips the
Jackal Maxon.
Jackal Maxon. Yeah, oh, so cute. It's such a cute scene. She's very outspoken. She speaks on the dress code because as most of us know, over in the Middle East, over in Iran, Iraq, these women are fully covered, fully clothed, with the idea of, even if they don't cover their hair, they're prostitutes, or they're whores, or they're this and that. So these women are very, very oppressed, and she has no issue voicing that it's not fair. And if you guys weren't such perverts, then basically we wouldn't have to dress this way and this and that. And not in those words. She was not as blue as that. But yeah, very outspoken young lady. In this entire movie, she's young. Even at the end of the film, she's
She's
still
still
young.
young.
Maybe I would say in her early 30s at the time. But yeah, it goes through her life as a kid, her life as a teenager, her life as a young adult, her first love, her second love, her heartbreak, death in the families, death from war. It's such a very well-rounded animated film, mind you. It's an animated film, so there is an element of silliness to a lot of these scenes, which is just
All
absolutely
black and
beautiful.
white?
No,
Mostly black and white, with the exception of present
Mostly.
time.
the
Okay,
past
Yeah,
okay,
is black
okay,
and white. The
okay,
present
okay,
is in color. Yeah.
okay. All right, fair
yeah,
enough. Gotcha. Thank you.
There's one scene you
yeah.
mentioned too. It's that talking about like the dress codes and the contradictions between men and women. The scene where she's chasing after the bus, and because she's running late, and the occupation is following behind her, and you think, because every time you see the occupation, it's always some kind of monumental drama, and they're like, "Ma'am, please stop running after the bus." Because it makes your butt move in a provocative manner. And she's so
Hmm.
mad, she turns around and says, "Well, maybe stop looking at my ass." And she just keeps
Yeah,
running. And they don't do anything.
yeah.
They're just like, "Oh,
They're just
yeah,
baffled. They're just like in shock.
I love
Yeah,
this
I
girl."
love that scene. I included it in the reel, by the way, because that's one of my favorite scenes throughout the entire film, and I'm so
Yes.
happy
Yes.
that I found it. Yeah, it's so good.
MOTN, Instagram. Go check out the reel. It's sick. Such
Yeah, I
good
like
work.
it.
Like it.
Like it, comment,
God,
and subscribe.
God, guys, shit.
I will say that watching this, a couple of things went to mind as I watched it. And first, I well, enjoyed the journey that it took me on because it's real. So you're like, oh no, this is real. Like what I'm watching isn't necessarily enjoyment. Like this happened to somebody and these are real circumstances. But the just history of it all, of Iran, of the people, of the culture, and that timeline, it really brought me back to my childhood and looking at things on television going, oh, you know what? These kind of situations are matching up right now. The second thing I'll say is, pardon me, um, and I couldn't help but do it. I so like attached myself to her parents because for me they became like the rebellion. They were running like
Hmm.
a little mini
His
freaking like
her dad
Star
was the
Wars
realist.
rebellion out of
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's some sad moments, but the entire time I'm watching it, I'm literally just waiting on all the cards to fall down because this is not Star Wars. This is real
Real life.
70s, 80s. history. And,
Yeah.
so the film kind of kept me on an edge, even though it's not that type of film. But you were just kind of like, oh man, this is not going to end well for anyone involved. So it was very exciting in that aspect.
Yeah, I have so much to say about this film. Toots kind of went to Toots yesterday was like trying to get a temperature check. I was like, so what do you think of the movie? I was like, I can't tell you right
He
now.
didn't say a word.
No, because I have so much to say about this movie because it's so. And whilst you were mentioning how it's hard to say it's entertaining, no, it's entertaining. You're there through her entire life. You're there for her victories. You're there for her defeats. You're there for her tragic moments. Like Toots is mentioning, her heartbreaks. Her, I'm in love, number one. I'm in love, number two. I'm in love, number three. And you're just with her along this journey that's so personal, but it's so smartly written because on the periphery of her experience is the war, is the, how when she was a baby, she thought the Shah was the best thing since sliced bread. Oh, he's been ordained by God. And her rebellion dad had to tell her, no, this is the actual history. You know what I mean? And it's so fascinating. And I think because I don't speak Francois, I'm totally invested because I have to read the entire thing.
Oh yeah, I actually,
For
not
sure.
to mention it, I didn't even notice it. Like
Same here.
it didn't even not. I would not have even considered it until you mentioned it right now. That the whole thing you read.
Yeah, some people can handle
Yeah.
subtitles, some people can't. You know what I mean? And I was one of those where it's like the subtitles is forcing you to engage and immerse with the story because if you miss one thing, you have to go back and read it. You know what I mean? Like
I
YouTube
always
had
have my subtitles on though.
yeah. And what's cool about this movie is
Used
that
to
it
it.
bounces it bounces languages. It goes from French to what's Iran? What's their natural
Swedish.
Swedish to
There's a
German.
lot of Dutch. There's
Like
a lot of Dutch, a lot of German. Yeah.
like her her German housekeeper that had the stupid dog reminds me of someone in my life, and I think Toots knows what I'm talking about. So much that I was so immersed in that little part of her life. It's like, F you and your stupid dog. You guys are
Yeah.
crazy.
And your shitty dog.
You took my
The dog
brooch.
is immediately humping her.
Yeah, you took my
Oh
brooch.
yes, okay, I
And
got
she's
you.
like,
Oh,
you know what?
yeah.
I'm out, man. I'm out. One thing I liked about this film was how what was on TV grounded you at the time. And it's like these little clips of like Godzilla or a little clips of the Terminator, which tells you where they are on the timeline. And it's like mindless. And it's always like wordless, mindless American schlock, Japanese schlock. It is like this is what they're watching during this horrible time of revolt and failure and defeat. Because sadly, Tihan never recovered from the war. You know what I mean? And and I kind of want to go into favorite scenes because I have a couple. Like,
Go ahead, man.
okay, favorite scenes. Okay, my first favorite scene, which is kind of more of a subdued one, is where they had where she was going to stab this one kid with Wolverine nails because his dad was a military man of the Shah, and her mom caught her and pretty much told her to get your dumb ass back in the house because they were going to do harm to this child who was on his
They
bike.
were chasing them.
They were chasing him with Wolverine nails, and his mom was like, what is your problem? What are you gonna do? And then the boy turns around and says, well, my dad works for the Shah. He does a good job. And he hasn't killed anybody. Everybody. It's different from different perspectives. From different perspectives, it's their truth. And of course, hands down, the best scene of the film is when she's depressed and she's visited by God, and God tells her to get it together, and then she locks the F in. And Eye of the Tiger starts playing.
Oh my God.
It's so bad. I was so hyped for that scene.
I almost cried, yeah.
And you see her locking in.
That was so
She's
cool.
working out with the homies, Doug. They getting it together. The only time the movie's ever in English is when she sings the lyrics to Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, and it's her singing it too.
Yeah.
It's her singing. Isn't that great?
Great. I was so pumped. But I was like, this scene alone is going to carry this movie far. into Land of Select. I can't think of anything off the top that
So
got me
good.
more. I was not
Funny.
expecting that.
That's funny.
It was like God and like Einstein told her to lock in.
That's
I don't know who the
funny.
other guy was, but it was God and Einstein. And there's like, and
I
then
love that God had no time for him though.
yeah, God,
God was like, you know what? All right, yeah,
fine,
whatever,
man.
whatever he said, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, fine, it's fine. God was super
So
annoyed
cool.
that guy hopped out of heaven too. It's like, yeah, get him. And God was like, man, whatever. But yeah, what are you guys' favorite scenes of this film, Persepolis? Oh, that part is so
Mine,
good.
and Tootie, you can hop in because I don't have a bunch of favorite scenes, but mine really are the rebellious moments, like when she starts doing like the rock and roll to like Iron Maiden. It was so
Yeah.
Yeah.
unexpected to hear
Right?
Iron Maiden. At that moment, I was like, wait. What am I watching? Like I literally said that, and I'm like, "What is happening right now?" So it was moments like that when you talk about Godzilla, Terminator. So it was just those moments that really, Americanized this film. That this little Iranian girl is like just sucked up into the culture and trying to break free in her own way through, you know, the music of rock and roll, Godzilla, and Bruce Lee. And you know what? I dig it. I can get behind that.
She
That
started
ain't
doing
bad.
Bruce Lee during the Eye of the Tiger, dog. That's
Yeah,
too
that
real.
ain't bad,
She
man.
she she clicked in, dog. She Voltroned up. Sorry, Toots. I'm just so
Go
hyped.
ahead,
That movie.
Tootie.
She's a
That
well-rounded kid. She was definitely a well-rounded kid and became a very well-rounded adult, really. Like culturally speaking, not only were her travels amazing, from back and forth from Iran to Europe, and then she traveled within Europe, to different places here and there. So like, not only was she pretty well versed as far as that side of culture is concerned, she made it a point to to continue her curiosity for super westernized culture, because Europe was pretty westernized
at
back
that
then
time.
even. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I mean, Iron Maiden's they're not from America, so
Right.
um okay, so first, yeah, my favorite scenes are the two scenes where she does talk to God, especially the second one with when it alludes into Eye of the Tiger. Another one was when she falls in love with the second guy, and he's the most handsome, most gorgeous fella, and then he ends up like fucking around on her and cheating on her, and then all she sees is how dumb he is and how super ugly and
He's
grotesque he is,
eating
and
his own
it's
boogers and
such a
shit.
it's it's legit a girl thing. Like, what did I see in him? It was such a beautiful moment, because that's exactly what we do, fellas. That's exactly what we do. The second we break up with you, we find every flaw about you, and we want to exploit the hell out of it in our own minds. I suppose it's a coping mechanism, but yeah, it was hilarious to me. And my last favorite scene, which is probably honestly my favorite out of all of them, is towards the end. She goes back in her memory, and she remembers laying on her grandmother on her chest, and she asks her, why do you always smell so good? And then the grandma says, well, I always put jasmine flowers in my bra, so that makes to make sure that I always smell good. And then she asks her why her breasts are so round, and grandma's like, well, because I soak them in water for 10 minutes every day. First of all, I wonder if that really works.
It probably
Secondly,
works.
I thought it was a beautiful scene. I'm anyway,
Lady
I'm gonna
O,
write that one down.
TikTok.
Damn. So good.
this is
How
this is
to.
my 5:30 routine.
This is
Oh
my
my god.
5:30 routine. I get
Right?
a
Like, let
bath.
me just make one of
Let me
those.
bath bomb my
I soak
boobs
I soak my boobs in ice water.
and ice water in
That's funny.
and I
Oh,
put
that's
flowers in
hilarious.
my bra. But all jokes
But
aside,
it's a really beautiful scene.
yes.
Like, it's that they're best friends. Like, Grandma and Marjane are best friends
It's a
throughout the
beautiful
entire
film.
movie.
You know
Isn't
what?
it a beautiful? It's such it's absolutely amazing. Grandma can say anything she wants to her, and Marjane's not going to get offended. She's going to get her feelings hurt, or she's going to change. She's going to about
Just
face
gonna think
when
about it.
Grandma tells you, Marjane, you're a selfish son of a bitch for letting a man go to jail over something he never did, just because Marjane was playing, what is it called, damsel in
Playing dumb.
distress, which is what she
Yeah.
did call it. Grandma had no issue with telling her how stupid she was for doing that, and I'm ashamed of you. Like, you should feel ashamed of yourself. And two scenes later, here comes Marjane to have a wonderful moment with her grandma. And again, these intimate moments, these are probably relieving for her. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's beautiful to have a mom and dad, but mom and dad are busy. Mom and dad are busy surviving, living, working.
running the
Grandma's there. Grandma
rebellion.
hug me. Grandma love me.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. You know, can you imagine? And grandma's not there for any of that. Grandma's peacemaker. Grandma's gonna tell you how it is, but you know what? Come and love me at the same time. And I thought, my goodness, that is absolutely beautiful. Like for sure, her and grandma were BFFs, no doubt.
I was going to make a point to before we moved on was to talk about Grandma. Thank you for being in my brain because I think she's one of my favorite characters of the film.
Mine too.
Grandma, like you said everything perfectly. Grandma set her straight. One of my favorite scenes is she thought she was doing something. Hey, what happened to that guy? Oh, they arrested him. Are you stupid? Why would you do that? Your uncles have been arrested. You know what I'm saying? Your father was almost arrested. You're gonna put another man in jail because you think you're being cute? You should be ashamed of yourself. And grandma was always
Hmm.
there to ground her, even when she was
Hmm.
little. You know what I mean? And one of my favorite lines of the movie is like, and that was the last time, when her final send off. She's like, and that's the last time I saw my grandma because freedom is very seldom free. Freedom has a cost, and the cost was her grandmother's life for her to be free out into the world. That touched me, especially right now. So this movie just jacked me up so much, but it was such a breath of fresh air. You know, freedom is often seldom free, and this woman's story from beginning, from Milan to Minsk, we didn't even go into the Vienna stuff where she was living off the streets. Okay, there's a weird scene. Okay, I don't know what the implication is. She's in a corner and two male shadows show up in front of her, and that's all they ever show. What was that? You know
I
what I'm
think
talking
just showing
about?
the vulnerabilities of being in the street.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, no, 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 right? Okay, I
I
was,
think it was just showing us that she had to either decide whether these are men who were going to grape her, these are men who were going to harm her, rob her, or they were guards.
and they never
Do you know what I
specified
mean?
either
Like,
way. Yeah,
Yeah, I
but you
think
know
that
what I mean? But because she was in Vienna, like, can you? Obviously, they weren't going to be guards, but the anxiety of the PTSD from what you've already been through, like she was on higher alert than anybody else who was probably on the streets.
oh
You
yeah,
know, no matter where she
it,
was. So
and that's what just the dark shadow of anxiety and of danger and of lone, and that's what I took that of meaning as an
for
all
sure,
encompassing. This is where you're at, and damn, I don't know what's coming. So
for sure. Yeah,
perfect. Any final thoughts on Persepolis before you move on to our next combatant? Hell of a
nope.
movie. Who chose this? I think
hell of
that's a
a
good thing to
movie.
mention.
That
This
was
was
B Rye.
randomly chosen by ChatGPT. Not
I, for
me.
one, welcome.
It
ChatGPT
was not
chose it.
you. Oh,
No,
I thought it was B
ChatGPT
Rye.
chose mine.
I
Well,
for
Yeah, I mean, I
wonderful
chose it,
choice.
but
I, I for one welcome our robot overlords.
see, I don't make bread anymore.
Wow.
Perfect. And now for something
Let's
completely different.
go. Whew.
Kick
Yay.
Ass. Director Matthew Vaughn. Synopsis: Dave Luzinski is a unnoticed high school student and comic book fan who one day decides to become a superhero, even though he has no powers, no training, or meaningful reason to do so. Did you know that after being rejected by every studio that he approached, Matthew Vaughn raised the budget at a dinner party to make the movie independently? Vaughn ultimately sold the movie to Universal for more than he originally asked them for. And everything went, and all, faith was restored.
What year is Kick-Ass?
2007.
2000?
No,
2007,
2010.
2007.
2010.
2010.
No,
Okay.
2010.
2010.
2010. Yes, I'm
2010.
sorry.
Okay. 2010. Okay. All right.
Persepolis was 2007.
2007. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, go on. No, I did not know any of that about Matthew Vaughn in this movie. So
me
interesting.
neither.
Yep. Did you know? I love the did you knows. So this movie, of course, based on the, I believe, Image Comics run of Kick-Ass. I read some of Kick-Ass back when it was first in comic book style, but I never finished it because there's a lot to the story. It goes for a very long time. But I was mentioning earlier, Kick-Ass was kind of like a cultural phenomenon when it first came out. Everybody was really hyped on this idea of this unconventional superhero film. You know what I mean? About a kid who, any nerd within the Nerdiverse has ever dreamed. What if I tried to be a superhero in actual real life? Oh, and I lost Toots and I lost I lost Toots and I lost Wash here. So I'm gonna keep going just to kind of give my 2 cents, and they can catch up once they log back in. Not exactly sure where that disconnect came from, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk and fill air while we go ahead and fix this technical difficulty.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, we're back. Hey, we're back.
Okay.
Hey, Mike.
I was able to fill air like a boss. You guys would be proud of me. It was awesome.
Good for you.
It was
Very
like
nice.
5 seconds, bro. Like you got
I'm a
a
beast.
podcast.
I'm the same animal and the same beast.
Ooh.
Bro.
Hey, I was able to dice this onion in under 3 minutes.
For
That's-
5 seconds.
For 5 seconds, I was on my own, dog, in the cold.
Be right gut jokes. Be
I
right
had
gut
no coats on, bro. I was in winters.
All right.
Shout outs to Winter.
Oh, Winter.
Oh, Winter. Yes. So, Kick-Ass, man. Let's talk about this. I called it a Four Loko of a movie, where one of my jokes my dad always said is that there could be no real Batman. And they make the same joke in this film because the second he goes outside, he's going to get his ass beat and die. And that's just the natural sad because we have gun as a society.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to do a kung fu kick against AR-15 with a switch on it. You know what I mean? But that didn't stop Dave Lazinski, who for some reason was obsessed with masturbation and Batman and comic books and shit. That's all he loved until he got the bright idea to become Kick-Ass.
Like a 16, 17-year-old kid. You know what I mean? Like,
Very normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the
For some
wheelhouse.
reason, he was obsessed.
I don't know who
some
this kid was.
Well,
I don't know who this kid was, but this weirdo, this not. Oh, geez.
Cool. Put a stigma on it. Nice. Very
Yes.
nice.
Yeah, I'm isolating out.
That's healthy.
That's super healthy. This movie, man. I don't
your
even know where to start.
original-
I don't know. Where
I'm
to
very curious, Mike. When did you first see this?
I saw this when it came out. I was swept up in
Movie
the hype.
theater?
I saw this in the theaters. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You-
Yep. All right.
You know what I mean? Because I was reading the books. I was a big fan of Hit Girl. I was a big fan of Big Daddy. I loved the source material. And I wondered how they were going to adapt this to a screen. Because it was like, how are you going to make Kick-Ass getting his ass kicked? The entire film interesting. You see what I did?
I did, yeah.
And it's like, who are they going to cast in this film? And for the most part, there's a lot of unknowns at the time. The biggest name here was Nick Cage. You know what I mean?
For
As
sure.
Big Daddy. But I think this was Chloe Moretz' first film, if I'm not wrong. The kid who played
And she fucking killed it.
we'll talk about that during favorite
Bro.
scenes. But
Okay.
yeah, because
Bro.
yeah,
She was a fucking beast, dude.
she was a fucking monster.
Yeah.
And the action of this film, of course, is up to Matthew Vaughn's standard. If you've seen Kingsman, which is on this list, which is going to be a random select, so we can't talk about it too much. The first Kingsman is on this list. Yeah. But Kick-Ass is just one of those films where you wish they would have expanded it more, even though there was a sequel. I will give it that. I don't think it was as impressive as this first outing. But I'm curious to see what you guys' experiences was with this when it came out. Did you watch this late in its development?
I would like Tootie to go because Tootie did not feel as though, in random select and full just disclosure of all the behind the scenes, we do watch every film upon our random selects. There's no YouTube shorts that are coming in going, oh yeah, I watched it. So Tootie was not super enthused to go ahead and give this a replay. I don't know how many times you've seen it. And there is a little rule we can put in there. If you've seen it in the last year, you don't have to rewatch it.
No.
But if it's been a president or two, yeah, because we're different people
That's for
now.
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
You're
I'm
right.
very interested in what Tootie has to say as comparisons to, how first outing compared to yesterday's outing.
So I did watch it when it first came out. It was actually one of my first date, one of our first dates, me and my kid's dad. It was really, it was a fun day actually, and it was a very fun movie that I do remember. That oh my god, I was surprised that I even going in to watch it. Then I was apprehensive, like no, not really. I'm not interested. Turns out, I loved it. I loved every bit of it. It was unique. It was amazing. It was Nicolas Cage. Like how can you not? So yeah, I loved it then. Um, and I thought maybe I remembered everything about it, and I do. Like it was that memorable. And then the kids are born, so the boys would watch it, and so I've seen it. But again, it has been a handful of presidents. Um, so when I watched it yesterday, I did feel the same way. I remember almost the second it came out, I was like, oh my god, this movie's fun. This movie is so much fun, and that was literally one of my first thoughts. Is this movie is so much fun. Um, when he it's done so well. Just there's not so much emotion. Even when he gets stabbed, you're not like, oh my god, he got stabbed. You're
It's so
kind of more like,
stupid.
all right, where's this
It's so
going
stupid.
exactly? You know what I mean?
It's
You're kind of
just-
more just intrigued comically, not necessarily like sad for him or anything. Um the scene where he's pretty bionic, and then his friends like are in the lunchroom just fucking with him, just hitting him as hard as they can with the tray. Like that's to me, that is such a seriously like a real life scenario of what would happen if your friend was bionic in some body part where he can't feel anything. Your friends are gonna mess with you. You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty hilarious. And again, true to form. Just about everything in this movie, to be honest, is pretty true to form. If this was a real scenario, like Nicolas Cage doesn't have superpowers. He just has super skills, super military skills, and weapons, and intelligence, and Wi-Fi. You know what I
And
mean? Like
money. Yeah.
he's not, and money. So he's Batman. He's basically Batman, which is probably why he presented himself as such. You know what I mean? Like they didn't call him Batman, but that's what he was going for. And how they got away with that, I don't know. You maybe maybe you guys can explain that better as to how they were able to use a resemblance of Batman the way they did.
Yeah. I
Um,
had considered
Hit
that.
Girl
Good
was amazing. Yeah, right.
point.
Yeah, Hit Girl was absolutely amazing. Super skilled. Like this kid was actually like doing this probably since birth. You know what I mean? And they didn't play super hard into the aspect of this is revenge and I'm gonna fuck your brain up and this and that, because she was a well-adjusted kid. She was very smart. She was very loved. And she was very kind and she was very loving, as much as a badass as she was. So she was raised well. It's obvious, you know what I mean? With between her caregiver and her father, there was a nice combination of love there. But and it's evident in the idea that she was trusting. She trusted her dad every step of the way, which is why she was able to gain the skills that she did, because she trusted. And I think that's very, very sweet. Going back to Dave or Kick-Ass himself, that's a whole other like idea of fantasy being this close to reality. Because if it were to happen in real life, this is pretty much precisely as to how it would happen, right? So yeah, it's such a good movie. I had such a good time watching it yesterday. And again, like Wash said, you watch it as a different person. I watched it as a mom, and then I watched it as somebody remembering my teen years, and I watched it as somebody who had my first crush, and I watched it as somebody who was barely getting into comics and trying to impress boys because I liked comic books too. You know what I mean? Like the scenes in the cafe with the girls and stuff. So like it was very nice to slip into all of these different shoes while watching it as a 1,000-year-old woman. So yeah.
I'm 1,000 years old.
I'm older than you, just FYI.
Yeah,
Uh,
we all know, Wash.
Barely.
We all know, okay. We know you're
this-
there at the Mason Dixon line. We understand.
I will say, I definitely appreciate the sentiment you're coming from with Kick-Ass, because it was a lot of fun. Like, and just looking at the juxtaposition, as I said, when I watched it and then I had to turn it off because I was like, oh man, just coming off Persepolis, I can't watch this. And just the forwardness of it all, just it being in my face was off-putting. Like, and we're not in the verdicts yet. We're not there yet, but it was off-putting to me. And I was like, oh, you know what? I think hands down, I know what's gonna win this without a doubt. And so when I went back and I had to sit down and I'm watching it, and I didn't want to start having fun. I did not want to have
You were
wow.
reluctant.
I was reluctant because
Wow.
the violence, you know,
Wow.
10-year-old or 13-year-old kid just swearing all movie. Like, it's different to my eyes. So I did not want to get on board. But throughout the movie, they just kept pulling me and tugging me, and I found myself just having a good time with it and finding that the characters are all super fun, not crazy well written. Mike, I did not know there's a super long backstory to Kick Ass. I had no
Many,
idea that this
many,
exists.
yeah, it
So this
goes
may be something I go look into, because I was, after finishing and I was like, you know what? I could revisit Kick Ass 2. I'm kind of curious what happens with the dude. I don't really remember. I just remember it not being that good, not as good as Kick Ass 1, and thus gone. But I did wind up having quite a bit of good time with it. And as we get into the verdict, there are some downsides to it as well that, I didn't have such a good time with, such as 2D mentioned, length. This movie is about
It's very
40
long.
freaking 5 minutes too long,
longer than it
man.
needs to be.
Had they kept this thing tight, I would have been happy as a clam. But I found myself just drifting in and out, and like, God, what are we doing for freaking 20 minutes right now? And then pull me back in. So,
Yeah, man. One thing I would love to call out is that this movie came out right on the cusp of the social media takeover, and it has aspects of that where Kick-Ass would do something. There was somebody out with their camera. This is the first time I think early on we saw something like that, where Kick-Ass was
For sure.
online and Kick-Ass was on YouTube or whatever it was back then, predating TikTok, predating Instagram, if I'm correct on
MySpace.
that. MySpace, right? So we're starting to get that kind of, if it's not on camera, it didn't happen, social shift, which made Kick-Ass Kick-Ass to the kids. It made him like a household name and stuff like that.
Mhm.
There's one scene I love is where the mobsters think they think they caught Kick-Ass slipping, walking down the street, and they fucking murk him in the middle of an alley. And it's a damn birthday performer, and he's tight because
That's messed up.
he was like, they killed this guy in cold blood. And then the girl
That's
is
a
all
messed up
crying.
scene.
It's so sad about Kick-Ass. And then you see Dave was like, yeah, man, that's crazy. And it's like, wait, what? And then they're all mad because it's like, who the hell wants a Kick-Ass birthday performer?
Yeah, who dresses
It
as
sucks.
Kick-Ass
Right?
for a
Yeah.
kid's birthday party?
That's one
Oh,
of my
God,
favorite
yeah, that's
gags.
funny.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just to go
Mhm.
to Toots' point of like just the adolescence fueled by this film is what gives it a lot of its juice. It's him and his buddies Quicksilver, you know what I'm saying? And just at the lunch table cracking jokes about Spider-Man and how he has bionic limbs now and he has all this nerve damage from getting fucked up, so many times. And he's like and he kind of gets superpowers by proxy because now he's kind of impervious to pain a little bit, you know what I mean? And there's scenes where like Big Daddy's put on fire and it's like Nicolas Cage gets to Nicolas Cage and he's all like, I'm knocking at the door. He starts doing Nicolas Cage
He's doing the long legs.
He's like, ah! He starts going
Yeah,
nuts.
he channeled into long legs, or what's that thing called? Long
Yeah,
legs.
the
Right?
long
That's the
leg-
one that just
that-
came out.
OG
Yeah, he was
long
totally
legs.
channeled in.
That's not necessarily long legs. That comes from the bee movie, right? When he had like
The bees.
Yeah, like when he has the bee thing.
Are you
he's-
serious?
Yeah,
The bees.
that's the things. This is a little old. Like,
Does he do it in Wicker Man?
Yeah.
He's wearing Wicker Man?
Yes,
Yeah,
Wicker
that's the
Man.
bee.
Oh,
That's
that's
the
what you
movie.
guys are
That's-
talking about.
and-
The B
and
movie.
so-
I'm thinking
movie.
your Seinfeld B movie.
Nah, the
That's
movie.
funny.
Junior
Um,
Mint.
Like what?
I was like,
Okay,
and then
okay.
Nicolas Cage.
So
B
this is
movie,
just a
'cause he
Nicolas
does so
Cage
many-
thing.
Yeah, he loves to do it. If they give him a chance to do
Oh
it, he'll do
wow.
it. Yeah, he
I
loves it.
was like, it's
I
as
love him.
iconic as Tom Cruise running. Like when
Yeah.
Nick
I know I've
Cage
seen him do it
does
a
his
lot, but
creed.
yeah.
Like, it's
I love
awesome.
it. I love the villains. I love the nerdy kid from Superbad who wants to be part of Bab's mom.
Mist.
But Miss,
I hate Miss.
he's such a
I hate
dork and so like such a tryhard.
Annoying.
He's the kid.
Yeah.
He's the kid that got all the cool toys and would invite you to your house. So invite you to his house so you can see the toys, but you can't play with them. Remember that kid?
My least
Amen.
my
You
least
know?
favorite scene is sometimes I smoke weed just to get the edge off, while I'm fighting crime. Like, oh my god, dude, shut
Kick-Ass
up.
was like, Kick-Ass was like,
I
you're
bully
nothing.
you.
You're nothing like I thought you were gonna be, bro. Fucking red mist.
Oh god.
The girlfriend, I forgot that. My brain, I thought she heel turned on him, but she ended up not. Maybe I'm misremembering that.
I don't know, because there's some stuff about Red Mist that I was remembering. I'm just wondering if it's part 2.
Yeah, I'm missing 1 and 2
That's how come I
in
was
my
like,
brain.
I need to kind of maybe watch part 2, but I didn't want to watch it before the stream because I didn't want it to influence, our picks, my pick.
Yeah, and I think you made a good call for Big Daddy being Batman adjacent, and I think it's just legally distinct Batman. You know what I mean? Like best value Batman. Spider Boy. You know what I mean? And I think that's how they kind of got away with that. We lost Toots and Brian again. That is okay because I'm a hold it down for another 5 seconds, bravely, diligently about this film, Kick Ass. While the sequel wasn't really that great in my opinion, but that's for a whole nother episode, I do feel that this movie is something that I think deserves to be on this list. And here we're gonna get Watchback, show on screen. I don't know why it keeps dropping. That's okay. We're gonna get Toots back on
She's
stream.
probably wrapping her up.
Watch this like it's time to wrap her up.
You're gonna lose the whole thing, and then
No.
it's like, hey, can we redo our
Nah.
random?
No,
It's gonna be hard to.
no, we're not restarting this, baby. This is gold. I don't know.
No,
what.
this is gold. This
I
is
don't know.
good.
Yeah, because I'm holding it down, guys. When you go back and watch this,
Yeah.
see, Michael was going crazy during that time.
Wow.
Michael is truly
Wow.
the best. Michael
You
G.
start playing like the flute or something.
I started playing Yas flute.
You got the
Yeah.
or
Real quick,
Ocarina of Time over there.
I do have the Ocarina of Time, dog.
Chill out, Kenny G.
This is all an illusion. Some would say I'm the Lord of illusion, dog. So, like Wash would say, let's stop grab assing, damn it, and it's time to make a verdict.
Never said that.
Have you said that? Have you said that?
Not
He just
a
said it.
like you've
single
never
He
time.
said it during the break when you guys were
I feel like
blanked
he's
out.
never said
When you
that.
guys dropped,
Uh-huh.
he said it, and I heard it through the ether.
I was here with him, so no, that didn't happen.
No, you guys didn't hear it. I heard it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
For sure.
In like the clouds, like Mufasa. So
got you.
somebody has to win this. In past random selects, it would be me and Brian arguing for the next hour on who's gonna recant their decision. But God has graced us with 2D Odin, so no matter what, there's going to be a winner. You know what I mean? Which is beautiful, and it's going to save us a lot of time because a lot of some of our craziest random selects was me not wanting to dump back down, Watch not wanting to back down, and it taking a while. Now, to as the third of most, and get this knocked out. Good, great. So, let's go first.
Nope. I'm the deal breaker. I don't go first. It's you guys.
She's not going first.
You literally just explained that. You literally just explained that.
Okay, I like that.
All right.
I was thinking about that.
I'll take it.
Okay.
I like it.
I'll go
Right.
first. F it. I don't care. Let's do it. That's super brilliant. Toots is podcast. Do it. Do it. So Watch had a great idea before we started to write down our decision to make sure if we heard from that decision and why. So I have to say, under great deliberation, my decision has not changed. And I am going to make this long and drawn out. I am choosing Persepolis. I think this movie resonated with me way more than I wanted it to. Once, like Watch said, I had no desire to watch this movie, never had it on my periphery. If it wasn't for random select, I've never seen it, so I thank goodness for this format. That being said, what really caused Kick-Ass to fall over is that I'm not a fan of child violence. And seeing a grown man beat hit girl for 35 to 45 seconds in the face was kind of something I started to wince away at. Maybe I'm getting too old. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that. You know what I mean? I know she's Kick-Ass. I can't, like, as an older person, I don't like seeing stuff like that. So it kind of bothered me. The run times were a bit too long. I can attest to that. In Matthew Vaughn films have a certain flavor to them. It's almost like a blueprint. Like, it's almost like Robert Rodriguez films. They all have the kind of the same tang to them. So kind of that being in underline, somebody has to take this one. I can't let kids out this beautiful film going as far as the bracket as it do. So I'm going Persepolis. That's my vote.
I am floored right now. I did not see that coming,
Really?
Mike. No,
Oh,
I didn't see it coming.
I almost
didn't
cried to
see
this
it
movie,
coming.
man.
It's a brilliant film, and I'll go into my pick just putting this out here. I'm gonna provide a score just for my own sake to like, because we're splitting hairs on some of this stuff. You know what I mean? So for me, just I didn't want to go too high because we still got 6 of these movies to go. You know, so unless you're a 10 out of the gates, it's hard for me to give you a 10. But my final thoughts are Persepolis, however you want to pronounce it. I love the film, and I had to come down to how am I going to grade these films. Persepolis, first and second acts are super strong. The third act lost me a little bit, and the first 2 acts stuck with me for weeks, much like 2D mentioned. Like, that movie stuck with me. Kick-Ass, Mike, the violence, man, I had a big issue, and I'm telling you right now, I had to consider it for a few days what I was going to do. Because the violence of Kick-Ass, hey, I'm here on the Nerdiverse. I love violence. I love superheroes. I don't necessarily need to see like 13-year-old kids get punched in the face, shot with guns on screen. I don't know if it's necessary in 2025. That said, dude, when Chloe Grace Moretz jumps in the fire in that scene, and she walks up and she's like, shows over fuckers and shoots, I was done.
Scene of the movie.
Done.
Shows over motherfuckers.
6.5.
Hey.
6.
Kick-Ass edged it out, so we are split. This is where the argument would start. But now we have the wild card. We have Master of Magic Spells and Delusion. Enemies.
No pressure.
Tootie.
Oh, there's no pressure. I haven't changed my mind. The decision was made from the beginning, and it's the same one. So I don't know if you guys could see it, but I'm with Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass needs to move forward. And my reasoning being, Persepolis is an amazing film, and it's a movie that sticks. And I encourage anybody who hasn't seen it to watch it. If you don't watch movies and you're a reader, read the book, because that's going to be my next move with this movie. Is I want to read the book version of this film. Are we going to
get a review of that book?
Maybe that's your alley, but maybe. But it's very, very good. Persepolis is not done yet. Wait, Persepolis is a very, very good film. There's nothing from beginning to end. There's nothing wrong with this movie. The reason why Kick-Ass won is because it's also a very good movie, honestly. And I personally, as a mother, didn't have a problem with any of the violence because I already knew where the violence was going to go. There was no way in a film like this that they were going to let that they were going to let a child die. In Persepolis, children died. That's real life. That actually did happen.
Real life.
In this movie, it was just made into animation. You know, it was just to soften the blow. I think it was animated for that reason, even to just soften the blow of her own traumas, her own PTSD. And I wonder how interesting it was for her to rewatch her life in an animated form, and what that did for her therapeutically. But anyway, back to Kick-Ass. The violence didn't bother me at all. For one reason, honestly, our kids actively go to school and they have shooting drills. We didn't grow up with shooting drills. We grew up with fire drills, and we grew up with earthquake drills. We didn't have active shooter drills. Our children are traumatized, whether we like it or not. They're born this way, and there's a certain aspect of survival that needs to happen, and a certain aspect of the value of life. Now, excuse me, I can't say that superhero movies, especially one like this, where it involves the youth, is an encourager of the value of life. The only thing that you can say about that is, at the end of the movie, she saves Kick-Ass. So in turn, Kick-Ass says, "Well, I owe you my life since you saved my life." That's her dad. No spoiler alert. It's 2025, ladies and gentlemen. Her dad passes away in the fire at the end of the movie. Big Daddy passes away. She says goodbye to him face to face as a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, 11-year-old girl. I don't know how she was in that movie. She says goodbye to him, and she moves forward. She literally moves on with her life. She's like, okay, now it's time to make a plan. Now it's time to avenge his death. Kick-Ass is like, you know what? I owe you. I have no choice. And I think that's a beautiful thing for children to learn. Because these days, when it comes to the video game world and even some of the console world, everybody is convinced to respond. So there is no value of life being taken into consideration anymore with the youth, which is really scary and terrifying. They all feel like they can all die at any given moment. They all feel like they have to life at any given moment. It's this idea of a survival, but in the wrong way. So if I do not mind kids watching this movie and understanding that there's ways to overcome things, but also be kind at the same time. That's what I took out of it. That's what I took out of it as a mother who, if her sons were to watch this movie again as teenagers, that they would take this out of it. They would take the idea of help your fellow man. They would take the idea of you see wrong happening in front of you, take a stand. You know what I mean? Like these are the aspects and the values that every human being should be raised with. You know what I mean? And there was loss. Kick-Ass loses his mother suddenly in the beginning of the movie. Barely explained. 5-second comedic scene, a bit even, where she's like, blah, 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 blah. She passes out. She's done. Very comedic scene. They did it well to the point where like, oh no, it's traumatizing. No, something happened tragically to this child's life, and he was able to overcome and move forward with it in a different way. And we do not understand. And as we've lost parents as adults, there's plenty of children who lost their parents as children, as teens. So, you know, I think this movie has way more value in it than we're seeing on the surface. And there's so much fun involved in it. It kind of overshadows it. But if you watch it more than once, and it is a movie worth watching more than once, these core values start to pop out at you. The more you watch it, the older you get, you watch it again. Maybe these kids have their own kids and whatnot. There's things that you can take out of this movie that tell you, you know what? At the end of the day, everything's going to be okay, whether I'm a superhero or not. So to me, this movie is amazing. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant film.
I am
probably a brilliant graphic novel. Oh, thank you, Brian.
I am shocked, but not surprised. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought Persepolis was going to run away with this, but
I did too.
But you guys,
I did too.
had two amazing points, and like Wash said, we're pulling. It's such. They're both such good films, but they're so freaking different.
I recommend them both.
I recommend them both. Please watch them both.
Absolutely.
I'm not even mad. And I love this new format because it's like, yeah, my movie didn't win. So what? They're both great movies. Watch them. You know what I mean? And
well, Liam, you were wrong.
I was wrong. And my opinion was wrong at the end of the day. Just to twist that knife a little bit more. But no, Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass is one of those films that says it has a lot more under the tin than action, blood, guts, violence, you know? And Persepolis wears its heart on its sleeve. You know what I mean? Persepolis definitely wears his heart on its sleeve. And would I've liked this to go further? Sure, because I think it's a beautiful story. But to Toots' point, I think there's more said in Kick-Ass versus, and that's such a weird thing to say because these two movies. But with that, I'll say Kick-Ass moves forward.
In the shoes of an adolescent teen or a preteen or a young girl even. I'm looking at through the eyes of these kids, which is what this movie wasn't made for adults. There was hardly any adult situations in this movie outside of the extremely gruesome deaths of people with the crushing of the car and blah blah, which I thought was really cool too. Kids are seeing violence anyway. This movie was perfect in a sense of like, you're seeing it anyway. We're gonna throw everything and the kitchen sink at you, but we're gonna do it in a respectful way. This movie respected children. To me, this movie respected teens and adolescents. He got the girl at the end of the day. The nerd got the girl at the end of the day. That's unheard of. You know what I mean? Like, good for him.
The
Good for
nerd
him.
never.
I love a movie that ends with hope. I love that. And it, again, it wasn't done in a 80s fantasy way. It was done in a very modern, for 2010, a very modern way, and it was still tasteful. There wasn't school shootings, and there wasn't all kinds of real life things. These kids can actually close their eyes and disappear into this fantasy world and make it their own. And I think that's really beautiful. You can't do that with Spider-Man. You can't do that with Batman. You know what I mean? You can't do that with Spawn. You name a movie. You can't do that with the Avengers. You can't do it with Ant-Man. You can do it with this kid. It's beautiful.
You can kind of do it with Spawn.
Can you kind of do it with Spawn?
Yeah.
Different podcast.
Okay.
I'm fucking with you. I don't know.
You can kind of do it with
You can kind of
All
do
right,
it
nerd.
with Spawn.
Different podcast. But
actually-
I'm interested in the conversation.
Actually,
I did want to say that for our watchers, viewers, thank you. Click subscribe. But Kick-Ass, the winner, will be facing next either Astro Boy 2009 or Nightmare Alley.
those are the next contestants on Random Select.
God damn.
Watch. This is your watch list, Nerdiverse. Go watch the movies before these come out. This is an event. So every other Wednesday, we're putting these out. So follow along. Watch both films. In the chat, in the YouTube comments, which film do you think should have won? Are you with your boy, with Persepolis? Or are you with the squad and with Kick-Ass? You tell us who's right,
Get it?
who's
Get it?
wrong.
Get it? Get it?
We've been
Cool.
dancing a lot. I
Cool.
love it. I love it.
I love it.
So with that, is there any final thoughts closing out the book on Persepolis moving forward, Kick-Ass, from either of you before we close
Great
this bad boy out?
discussion. Great discussion. Great battle.
Great.
I'm
Had a
glad
lot of
it's
fun.
back, and yeah, that was a good tough round one. That was
Let's
a good
go.
tough round one.
The Lakers versus the
That was fun.
Timberwolves. Sport.
Sports.
Sports.
With that, I'm of course your host, Mike G. As always, may the mark of my dignity scar thy DNA. Random Select. Let's go.